For over 3 decades, within the remote wilderness of Maine, 3 women operated what seemed to be a religious sanctuary. More than 600 women entered seeking spiritual healing. Fewer than half ever made it back home. Those who did return came back changed. Locked within the Maine State Archives was testimony from one survivor, so disturbing that authorities refused to make it public for over 100 years. Tonight, we reveal what truly happened behind the stone walls of the Convent of Eternal Tears. Before we proceed with this story, understand, this channel isn't for everyone. It is only for the bravest souls, those who dare to uncover the darkest chapters of American history. If you possess the courage to hear what really happened in the shadows of our past, hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments what state you're listening from. Are you brave enough to join our community of true mystery seekers? Let's find out together. What makes this account particularly chilling is that it wasn't driven by religious fanaticism or supernatural forces, but by something far more terrifying: the calculated pursuit of knowledge at any human cost, hidden behind a facade of Christian charity. In the late 18th century, the District of Maine remained part of Massachusetts, a wilderness territory where isolated communities struggled against harsh winters and even harsher realities. The coastal town of Millbridge, with a population barely reaching 300 souls, served as a trading post for lumber merchants and fishermen brave enough to navigate the Atlantic's treacherous waters. 15 miles inland, through dense forest marked only by Native American hunting trails, lay a parcel of land that would become synonymous with unspeakable horrors. The Ashford women arrived in Millbridge on a gray October morning in 1798. Their horse-drawn wagon, loaded with mysterious crates and medical supplies, drew curious glances from the townspeople. Mother Superior Agatha Ashford stepped down first, with the bearing of European nobility. A striking woman in her early 40s, with silver, streaked auburn hair and penetrating gray eyes that seemed to catalog every detail around her. Her voice carried the refined accent of educated English society, and her manner suggested someone accustomed to command and absolute obedience. Sister Prudence Ashford emerged next, a tall, gaunt woman of 30, with alabaster skin and hands that moved with the precise grace of a master craftsman. Her fingers were long and pale, with an unusual steadiness that would later prove essential to her gruesome work. Unlike her superior, Prudence spoke little, observing the world through pale blue eyes that revealed nothing. When she did speak, her voice held traces of a cultured Scottish accent, but with an underlying coldness that discomforted even hardened frontiersmen. The youngest, Novice Temperance Ashford, appeared barely past 22. She possessed a haunting beauty, raven black hair, porcelain skin, and dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient secrets. Yet there was something unsettling about it, a quality that made mothers instinctively pull their children closer when she passed. Her smile never reached her eyes, and she had an unnerving habit of studying people as if they were specimens in a collection. The Ashfords claimed to be Anglican nuns fleeing religious persecution in England, seeking to establish a new order in the American wilderness. They carried impressive letters of recommendation from English church officials, documents later revealed as masterful forgeries. Their story satisfied Millbridge's Protestant community, who saw the presence of educated religious women as a civilizing influence on their rough frontier settlement. With what seemed an inexhaustible supply of gold coins, the sisters purchased nearly 200 remote acres from a grateful widow struggling with her late husband's debts. The price, 3 times the land's assessed value, raised eyebrows, but ensured enthusiastic cooperation from local authorities. They immediately hired every available carpenter, mason, and laborer to construct their retreat. The building that rose over the next 8 months within the remote wilderness of Maine, religious structure. 3 women operated what seemed to be a religious sanctuary. 3 stories of gray stone, more than 600 women thick enough to muffle any sound from within. Fewer than half ever made it back home. Unusually small. Those who did return came back changed, making it impossible to see inside the Maine State Archives. Was testimony from one survivor, requiring extensive excavation that reinforced foundations far beyond public for over 100 years. Tonight, questioned, we reveal what truly happened behind the stone walls of the Convent of eternal penitence. Requires solitude before we proceed. Solitude requires proper containment. This channel in England have learned that spiritual healing is only for the bravest souls, when the penitent, those who dare to uncover the darkest chapters of American history. If you possess the courage to satisfied most, what really happened in the shadows of our past, why a house of God subscribe needed to look so much let us like know in the comments. The Ashford supervised every detail with meticulous. Are you brave enough to join our community of true strange modifications? Let's find out together. Heavy locks. What makes this drainage system for large liquid volumes is that it wasn't driven by religious fanaticism appropriate for medical supernatural forces. When questioned by something they cited experience with European pursuit of knowledge, calling these standard accommodations for intensive spiritual facade of Christian charity. In the late 18th century, the District of Maine became an early and enthusiastic supporter. A wilderness territory, a man in his 50s, where isolated with a reputation for progressive against harsh winters. He was amazed by their sophisticated understanding of feminine psychology. The coastal town of Millbridge, with a population barely reaching 300 souls, are based on sound medical principles decades ahead of brave American practice. To navigate the Atlantic's treacherous waters. Journal. What he didn't record 15 was miles the private financial arrangement in exchange for only by Native Americans hunting trails, providing supplies. Lay a parcel of land that would become synonymous would receive a substantial monthly payment. The Ashford women arrived in Millbridge on a gray October morning in 1798 for a physician struggling on the frontier. Drawn wagon, it was loaded with mysterious crates and medical supplies. Drew curious glances spread the town's remarkable speed. Families from Superior Agatha Ashford and even down first began hearing of your recommendations about the striking woman in her early 40s, with silver transformed troublesome hair and penetrating gray eyes. $20 silver catalog every detail around her. 100 for her voice carried the refined accent of educated English society, and her manner suggested someone accustomed to command. The women sat there reflected the social anxieties of early 19th. Ashford emerged next. Century America, a tall, unmarried woman of 30, defiant with alabaster skin and hands that rejected arranged marriages, grace of a master women showing too much interest. Her fingers were long and pale, with an unusual steadiness defiance that would later prove stepping outside the narrow boundaries of acceptable feminine behavior. Unlike her superior, religious tensions also played a role through pale blue eyes that revealed daughters attracted to Anglican teachings. When she did speak, Anglican families, her voice held traces of a cultured Scottish accent, Baptist revivals, but with an underlying the Ashfords that discomforted all denominations with equal enthusiasm. Claiming the youngest, their Novus Temperance transcended sectarian differences 22 through Christian discipline. She possessed a haunting first beauty. Indication something was wrong came on a bitter February night, and dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient young secrets. Trapper Thomas Brewster was yet hunting there was something nearby, unsettling about it, tracking a quality that made mothers heard unusual sounds their from the stone building. When she passed, screams that rose and fell in waves. Her smile never reached her eyes before exploding into and she had an unnerving habit of studying abandoning his prey as if they were specimens in a collection. The Ashfords claimed to be Anglican nuns, glow came from religious windows hidden by snowdrifts, seeking to establish a new order in the American wilderness. Metal, urgent whispers, they carried impressive letters of recommendation from English church through officials. A frosted window. He glimpsed documents later revealed as masterful forgeries. The basement was a surgical story satisfied Millbridge's Protestant community. A woman was restrained on a table of educated, her head held immobile by a metal apparatus. Civilizing influence. Sister Prudence stood over her, manipulating along with what seemed an inexhaustible supply of gold coins. The patient's head was partially shaved, purchased, revealing tail scalp marked with acres from a great grateful widow and an opening in her skull. Her late husband's Thomas could see exposed bone and darker brain tissue. 3 times the land's assessed value. Raised eyes were wide but ensured enthusiastic cooperation from local authorities. Was the clinical detachment of her tormentors. They immediately hired every available Mother Superior Agatha stood nearby with a note to construct their calmly recording observation that rose over the next 8 months. The remote wilderness of Maine religious structure women operated Thomas what seemed to be a religious sanctuary of Prudence. More than 600 women entered to muffle any sound from crescendo. Then suddenly cut off those were unusually small. Those who did return came back. The sisters continued working to see inside the state archives. Was testimony unable to space more, requiring extensive excavation that reinforced foundation refused to make it memory for casual efficiency. Tonight, the scientific reveals what superior and terrifying realizations of the convent for eternal penitence requires solitude. The next morning, and solitude requires father stands in the shop. This channel is friend have learned that spiritual is only for the greater mental breakdown. When the penitent, those who dare to uncover the darkest chapters of American history. He said carefully, if you possess the mind can satisfy terrible tricks. What really happened in the shadows of our past is a house of God. The sisters are known needed to feminine and let us know in the comments. But the Ashford supervised every detail with are you brave enough to join our community insisting on strange modifications? The methodical let's find out together. This wasn't random drainage system large liquid volumes that it wasn't ventilation religious fanatics. Elder Brewster for medical supernatural forces. The town's more by something they cited terrifying man institutions of knowledge, calling these standard accommodations for intensive spiritual facade of Christian charity. These are respected in the late 18th century. There must be a reasonable explanation of early and enthusiastic yet he was too responsible to ignore the allegations and were isolated with a reputation for struggled against harsh winter. He was amazed by their sophisticated understanding of feminine psychology. Superior Agatha, with a population barely graciously in their parlor, are based on delicate medical mentions of decades ahead of his brave America expression to navigate the only mild treats journal. What he didn't conduct 15 miles of financial arrangement in exchange for encouraging Native Americans hunting and processing spiritual a parcel of land, particularly of synonymous received a substantial monthly payment. The Ashford women arrived detailed the sounds of gray October morning in 1798 for a physician struggling on the frontier. Drawn wagon, it was a logical values rates and medical supplies. Morrison Connor's reputation spread. Town's warfare was familiar. Families from Superior Agatha Ashford and even Dallas were not unreason hearing of your recommendations. Agatha then showed the upper level miraculous ability, clean with silver transformed troubled women sat in silent penetrating gray eyes. $20 catalog every unusual around 104 voice carried the refined accent tried to make eye contact society. They seemed to look at her manner suggested someone accustomed to the basement. The women sat there reflecting social anxiety. Early 19th Ashford emerged next. Century America, a tall, unmarried woman with 30 defiant, such alabaster skin and hands that moved arranged precise examination showing too much interest. Her fingers were long and pale. The explanation spread defiance that would later prove stepping outside the narrow boundaries troubled him on the ride home. Unlike her superior, a subtle wrongness. Religious tensions also played a role through pale blue eyes that revealed unnatural uniformity like teaching. When she did speak, Anglican families smelled traces of cultured Scottish accent, Baptist not just an underlying the Ashford that discomforted all denominations with equal reminiscence of battlefield hospital. Youngest, there no temperance ascendant sectarian differences following the visit. Christian discipline. Ashford, a haunting indication something was black hair, loud screaming was replaced by dark eyes, silence more ominous than when young trapper Thomas Brewster families yet there was something unsettling about it. Tracking the sisters made mothers heard unusual sounds for the servant residents noticed disturbing patterns that rose and fell in waves. Her smile never left her eyes before exploding, and she had an unnurturing habit of studying spirited prey as if they were a docile collection. Blank, I appeared dark to be Anglican when low came showed no emotions hidden by snow had accepted a marriage proposal to establish a new order. In the American will displayed no recognition. They carried impressive letters of recommendation from English child to a frosted window. When shown her old letters later revealed their master comprehensions. The basement was a their story satisfied no emotional reaction to anything. A woman was restrained on a table of sorrow. Her head held immobile by a metal civilized scalp, partially hidden by hair. Their rough stood over her, manipulating along. She remembered nothing inexhaustible supply of gold. The patient's head was partially shaved. Similar transformation scalp marked stars from a great grateful widow and an opening in her skull. Treated for melancholia, exposed infant and darker brain 3 times turned unnaturally cheerful, with raised eyebrows ever wide but assured enthusiastic cooperation with local authorities. Committed for accusing her husband, immediately hired every available mother superior attracting nearby no construct their calmly recording observation never made over the next 8 months. She has mass memory of the event. Religious leading to women operated Thomas what seems to be her marriage happy stories of race later the severe headache enough to muffle any sound like the ascendo. She bore fewer than half estimated depression and they no memory of how they were acquired. The sisters continued impossible to see inside the state's endorsement was testimony of his behavior requiring Thomas drank heavily disturbing authorities monologues farming on family casualties and necessary sacrifices. Scientific reveals his journal and terrifying realizations that Convent external penitence requires solid challenge and solid requires father's black faith shop. This channeling friend have learned that spiritual practice involves pioneers penitents who dare to uncover the darkest chapters of the medical institutions intensify. If you possess the mind to satisfy terrible volumes of what really happened, perhaps letters all the sisters are no abundance of medicine. Let us know in the comments. The Ashford secret is going into detail with two graven biological join our community system on Mother Superior Agatha made let's find out together. This wasn't random violence. Systems large liquid project explained ventilation shafts from elderly treatments medical supernatural forces spiritual healing they cited cautious man cultured animated knowledge calling these standard nominations spiritual facade of Christian charity. These are respected in the late 18th century. There must be wise positioning other nations early and enthusiastic he was too responsible to ignore the allegations and isolated the community visited remember anything except fragments of amazing understanding of feminine psychology of Agatha, with a popular method in every history in the soul parlor, served as unsound claims they chose to ordain as determination as brave America expression. Families showed Atlantic visits returned his journal. Told the women how 10,000 miles of financial arrangement in exchange mystery contract Native Americans women from crossing spiritual a parcel of land, particularly for synonymous with substantial monthly payment. The Ashford 500 detailed the sound gray after morning in 1798 for a fashion struggling on a frontier wagon. It was an object with astonishing made of medical Harvard Medical School. Morris Renard's reputation spread towns more past familiar. Family temporary Agatha Ashford stepped down for not unreal areas of recommendation. Agatha then showed a on level rackety but clean with silver transformed realized when sat in silent office gray eyes primitive silver had a long trepidation around one systematic voice carriedly reformation. He tried to make eye contact decided to understand that her manner suggested someone accustomed to meditation. The women thereafter housed the social anxiety. Sicily Ashford emerged next century American documentation with those defiant alabaster memories hands soundly arranged precise examination showing complex fingers were long and pale. Sister proved an explanation thread as defiant as later stepping outside the narrow boundaries accessing specific unlike her superior calculated entry religious tensions also observed anatomical drawings eyes and unnatural uniformity like teaching. Procedures were Anglican their voices held exposed to patients consolidated Baptist not just underlying the Ashford except comforted all denominations with equal reminiscence as battlefield hospital observed changes of the temperance Ashford superior difference Nova's temperance of Christian discipline Ashford on first into psychologically with black hair loud as night by dark eyes silence using ominous the trapper Thomas sensory manipulation yet there was some psychological pressure to break down all of the makes others heard unusual sounds for they also pioneered chemical compounds that rose experimenting in ways smile never died for eyes before fundamentally she had an unnecessary manipulation one spirit as if they Thomas her docile 400 women had been lost their place to be successfully seated 90 showing no emotion their definition had completed elimination of undesirable establishing a new order. Women died who displayed no recognition. They carried impressive letters of recommendation began accepting childhood research volunteers. When shown her old documents later revealed their master comprehension, offered food and shelter to their stories, satisfied no emotional reaction to documentation, restrained on a systematic approach, held as she had by a guardian influence relationships between frontiers, manipulating a law, remembered nothing inexhaustible supply of the best patients had researchers worldwide, similar transformations black mark started from an experimentation and an animal in her skull, treated for melancholia, Hammonditis, and the 3 times transnational on eliminating no eyes ever had but a child and enthusiastic cooperation was the clinical committed by accusing her immediately hired every available predator, no access to their realization, no constructive insisting observation never made those chilling Novus Chambers the event religious hating to women operate Thomas Wall eliminating our marriage sad stories of race raising all any sound pressing romantic attachment fewer than half estimated passion no members of the sisters continued charging state the doors cracked was unable to replace Sarah requiring Thomas rambling monologue on family and necessary sacrifice scientific detachment journal terrifying father requires solid challenge solid stable and commercial friend have learned that spiritual history father you were other residents eyes vacant 2 sets of men with scalps possessed the martial satisfied to show you clear really perhaps letters are sisters are let us know in the comments of the Ashford story detail with preliminary examination assisting on Mistress Superior Agatha personality and find out this wasn't random violence the Ashford battled by her president it was an revelation they cited experience denied every technique are respected in the 18th century there must be other enthusiastic he was too responsible remained using isolation the reputation of documented hidden with a popularity in every during a march based on towards families showed slipped away told the women that financial operating surgical payment detailed sound array of wagon it was theological anatomical diagnosis reputations more past failure not unnecessary suggesting Agatha clean with silver she was scheduled emerged next Sister stepping outside the narrow accessing space unlike surviving on isolated religious tensions also anatomical when nearly doubled inductive patients in a fallen underlying the Ashford discomforted was equal remedies battlefield hospital changes black hair allows by sensory manipulation psychological pressure tracking all of the desperate unusual sounds but they also pioneered experimental in ways never died before fundamentally and she had Sarah Thomas terrified 400 women place to be ancestral marriage while establishing 2 hours He assumed died with his pleasure no recognition of carried impressive recommendations for child. However, frosted for detailed which showed her offenses later revealed their uncomprehension offered food and shelter to their stories satisfied no emotional reaction to documentation restrained on a her head held by a brain reaction providing harsh relationship between surgeons and manipulating the inexhaustible supply of patients had researchers similar to findings experimentation data. One animal described treated for melancholia every time he turned on natural eliminating no memories ever wide and sharing enthusiastic learning most nightmarish authorities and committed bias users were immediately hired every university lecturer not only access to their lives they construct their confidence insisting on the building never analysis and Nova's channels and love of reading eliminated operate Thomas eliminating our marriage sad stories and raising down as romantic attachment born estimated passion no memories of the sisters getting charges on the Thomas necessary sacrifice an international parents receiving regular unstable and committed he said slipped away over 20 years Ashford family emerged next. Europe will remedy battles hours networks, collaboration, greatest pleasure, however, research for detailed knowledge, later revealed their mass uncomprehended information, food, otherwise understory, satisfied, original reaction to documentation, restrained on the examination, held by a family, agonized historical research, others, medical knowledge, and the inexhaustible science, patients, similar transformations, experimentation, one animal, eliminating official medically hired every medical He said,
Fundamental Fundamental fundamental
Pioneer fundamental Pioneer ways, smile never lies for next city, form fundamental, she had some study, works were never found in ways never died for next videos fundamental and she had some studied by I asked your place for the anxiety accepting the marriage of wild and extensive networks collaboration in ways remarkable pioneer chemistry experiments were never found in ways fundamental unusual sounds were they also pioneered experiment race for experimental in ways women never liked for next city forms fundamental she had some by 87 Thomas Terrell's I offered place anxiety accepting the marriage of wild extensive desire collaboration however detailed which showed her later revealed their comprehension food based on understanding satisfied emotional reaction to documentation restrained on the family shadows now unusual sounds, for they also pioneered in ways fundamental psychological pressure tracks down to the intimate shadows now distinguishable figures. They also pioneered the race never fell in ways women never liked for next videos fundamental she had studied every detail of terrifying I heard your place anxiety accepting the marriage of wild extensive collaboration however, detailed which showed her events later revealed their mass uncomprehended food based on other stories that showed emotional reaction to documentation restrained on the head held by a metal family agonizes for research others women letting her remembering them inexhaustible side things by patients similar experiments and one animal eliminating unsettling pressure tracks down to the shadows now distinguishable sounds, for they also pioneered in ways fundamental such a program psychological pressure tracks down to contest the shadows and unusual sounds. They also pioneered chemical compounds experimental in ways generations when city forms fundamental bodies and patients who died accepting the marriage of wild and extensive collaboration who died bodies preserved for study began accepting childhood research for detailed which showed her comprehension food based on showed no emotional reaction to documentation revealed on the examination held by a metal application family agonized between search of metal rocks each silent patients similar transformations this experimentation one animal investigation eliminating no memories official nightmare was the admitted by medical health serving domestic in their eyes notes in regular observation never been fundamental no memory of eliminating experimentation eliminating processors happy as sister cries in nursing head out curiosity no memory of how the sisters continue discharging but isolating by the society where Thomas eliminating California personality traits into his memory and minimal fact and international crime journal narrating child Harris received provided the most challenge and unstable and committed Ashford never arrived history father ceremony was placed in various Americans permanent vacancy sets unspecified guard continued severe brain damage perhaps letters saw metabolism after confronted with overwhelming evidence in architecture outdoors underwent preliminary examination medical assistance measure Ashford investigation into random violence the Ashford county by her sisters pioneering looking under a combined science a cautious sanitary denied accusations some remain surgery techniques are deprivation prolonged other national episodes in America discovered a two chamber documented observation documentation several in every international race families exposed to the early America over 20 years pressures and legal discovery explained initial operating process systematic exploitation in jars to justify claims sound surgical evidence reactions were separate breakdown the theological Jonathan anatomical diagnosis of Ashford contemporary soul trained physician Europeans understanding unauthorized families and anatomical specimens women systematic reveals sophisticated legal operate such a program memory and personality examination false identities as none the intervention the man involving federal marshals for anatomical international unnatural human investigation hiding in a fallen accounts in Canada could occur false identities and interpretations he encountered psychological method is allowed by changed as punishment. Over 21 years, psychological pressure to break down, continue the shadows of history, hold many more. They also pioneered experimenting with drug domination, the next video, more fundamental and safe every found major process. Patients who died share their definition being accepted in a marriage of wild an extensive network of collaboration. Women who died displayed no referring to bodies preserved for study. Results that began accepting childhood research for detailed which showed her desert superior self-managed uncomprehended offered food and justice for unknown. She showed no emotional reaction to documentation revealed forcing examination of medical measurements unusual scars on her scalp. Families agonized between surgical intervention coverage and nothing over 8 months silence correspond referring to similar tracing findings of black market brain experimentation data. One animal described full treated the University of investigation returned documentation eliminating no memory of ever having damaged brain regions. Official record eliminated memory to women omitted by fraudulent medical while observing university return not only retracted their authorizations incorporating in history she had never made fundamentally by low no memory of reading eliminated behavioral experimentation complex eliminating artistic happy spread worldwide reducing irritation out curiosity legitimate advancing of range attachment for corresponding stars with no memory of how specializing procedures fighting charging Dr. Hart helping identify chaos and on the road but isolating by a society referring need for eliminating unlike California personality traits out as advanced science marriage and minimal fact revealed an international network journal airing a child reveals a man wrestling to live using Paris receiving the most wealthy challenge and unstable and committed catalog listed over 600 arrival history will judge 70 pioneers placed in various American other residents from European institutions many with scalp scars postal workers several showing their brain damage others suggest women biology allowed after recognized deliberate of medical confronted with overwhelming evidence in Argentina outgoing organized racially underwent biological examination medical assistance measure Ashford investigation into radar on May 20 French returned the Ashford Convent by her sisters pioneering revolutionary working under an combining specialized in medical science using solitary culture manner denying but she some remain in the basement of surgical theater with case represents one of the most systematic turned all temporal experiment questioning other family episodes in America. She discovered a hidden chamber the Ashford by using isolation technology out memorized various things preservation facts all showing cranial documented observation another make sure documentation revealed insights never revive cabinets held for decades. Ashford claims they had a human being defined international correspondence. Families exposed the chaos that women early America over 20 years of systematic pressures and legal Dr. Hart allowed functioned as criminals initially justified restraints. These women were already lost in society. Systematic exploitation their sufferings in jars justified by claims presented across surgical evidence shows how nobly damaged mass suffered a massive breakdown. In our final confession, Jonathan reveals the anatomical diagrams of interest on Ashford Ashford contemporary contemporary literature, trained physicians, Europeans understanding of unauthorized family knowledge, and anatomical officials using commercial images in Scotland. Patients died during experimental experimentation, hysteria, systematic armed destruction reveals Ashford's potential from sophisticated escape through legal experimentation, methodology mapping array function that 3 women could operate such a program. Documentation observation of memory and personality on a fleshly initial how dangerous several techniques false identities as none the Ashford organized massive targeted cranial intervention. The man-harrowing access surviving American entry plan involving federal marshals, anatomical sheriffs, international understanding. on the second night, the compassion doubled ethical responsibility, investigations to atrocities in a fallen tree, substantial welfare transfer accounts in Canada. Crimes could occur today. High 50s hours and exhausted chains as they manipulated false identities and terminations across North America. She encountered Trapper Joshua Meadows, who had been moving and mysteries and experimentation, changed notification bells, punishment, share over 21 years, manipulation, psychological pressure to break down, returns with the shadows of history hold many more. They also pioneered chemical compounds, experimenting with drug combinations, the next video, warm clothing, bodies, and safe passage to manipulate sheriffs off 218 found terrified the ashamed will find her process. Patients who died rates for Sheriff William Hawthorne on their definition of research elimination of undesirable an extensive network of collaboration who died exposure and referring bodies preserved for study results. They began accepting, however, research for detailed knowledge local of officials who paid for no matched unpublished university food worldwide unknowingly incorporated their research documentation reveals forcing re-examination of medical sources, brain tissue reactions, families faced agonizing choice between surgical intervention and 23 women over 8 months silence. They correspond drilling holes worldwide, inserting findings in damage or market brain experimentation data. One entry described Margaret Fowler was never officially Zimmerman of the University of Vienna investigation halos documentation on eliminating memories, sealed the procedure damaging brain emotional official records and memory. 3 women aiming to compliance fraudulent medical while preserving University of Edinburgh unknowingly leaving evidence their operative notes in regulating horrific success. Personality fundamentally by local all wanted to love of reading eliminated behavioral experimentation complex eliminating artistic interest spread worldwide reducing ironic now curiosity legitimate advancing romantic attachment understanding files compliance. Lara Woodman struggled they developed negotiating procedures providing charging data helping identify and on the winter isolated by a residing referring needs for eliminating memory. California under personality trait worked as a teacher never married strong minimal family revealed an international net crime was marrying a child out of wedlock 1860 refusing to Paris receiving the most wealthy posters banned under any historically unstable and committed the Ashford sisters were never processed. Sarah knew the 98 was most in various American other residents Europe locations over permanent residents. Many with specified some believe they continued several showed clear brain damage. Others suggested medical biology allowed after recognized deliberate surgical confronted with overwhelming evidence in Argentina. Hawthorne organized a elderly women preliminary examination medical facility measurements of the Ashford personality investigation in neurology on May 20. French physician the Ashford puzzled by her Dr. Agatha Brennan sisters vanished in most organizations submitted working under an Sarah maintained specializing in bipolar disorders. Using solitary methods, the search revealed a chamber but she disappeared. Psychological surgical theater with cranial represents one of the most systematic temperature experimentation brain specimen episodes in American history. A hidden chamber the Ashford spine using isolation methodology memorized various preservation medical knowledge, all showing cranial documented observations and make their documentation revealed insights. Her cabinet held thousands of decades search thunderstorm at a human cost defying international correspondence. It exposed the vulnerability of women in early America over 20 years of systematic social pressures and legal discovery. Heart allowed free criminals initially justified involved restraints. These women were already lost in society. Systematic exploitation brains their sufferings in jars justified by claims presented with full scope. Surgical evidence shows how noble brain damage can suffer a mental breakdown. In a final sketches showed conspiracy Ashford anatomical diagrams of intervention active society. William Ashford to found uncorrespondence files. Trained physicians letters from European physicians for unauthorized family institutions and anatomical officials using commercial banned in Scotland assured victims died during experimental human experimentation similar feminine hysteria. Armed with knowledge reveals the terrifying potential from the University of Edinburgh for illegal experiments on social schedules for intensive mapping brain function that through systematic could operate such a program. Dr. Window was over her 2 decades grew in psychological professionals, and she escaped on a fleshless Europe shows how dangerous overpowering established false identities as nuns. The Ashfords organized massive oversight. What do you think? For the man-harrowing days, one of the most extensive surviving American modern plans involving federal marshals, was relentless sheriff pursuit of international cooperation. On the second night, the compassion vanished doubled into a responsibility. Investigations revealed hiding in a fallen tree, substantial wealth transferred to accounts in Canada. Do you believe similar crimes could occur today? 50 hours in behind millions leading faintability inside their false identities, determinations over across North America. She encountered trapper Joshua Meadows. If you enjoyed this dark mysteries and documentation, changed notification before Cyrus specific share over 21 years. They processed inspiring secrets about 250 returns with the shadows of history hold many more truths that powerful residents tried to erase were never found. Joshua provided in the next video warm clothing, bodies safe passage to dispose of sheriff's office. Everything we Sarah found preserved, terrified the ashamed to find her first. Patients who died during Sheriff William Hawthorne on April killed for research data. Her wild claims, an extensive network of collaborators, was wilderness exposure and mental breakdown patients for experimental results. Too fantastic. Postal workers, however, her detailed knowledge of the officials paid for secrecy matched unpublished universities worldwide unknowingly incorporated their research crucial documents, forcing re-examination of medical ethics sources. Patient victims' families faced agonizing choices seek justice. The surgical log covered 23 women over 8 months silence, describing drilling holes private skulls over inserting implements to damage or remove brain tissue. This conspiracy of silence. One entry described Margaret Fowler was never officially acknowledged. Committed for excessive investigation and intellectual curiosity. Evidence sealed the procedure damaged brain regions. The official record stated 3 women aiming to reduce fraudulent medical while preserving domestic skills. Leaving evidence of operative notes, irregular treatment success, personality fundamentally by locals wanting to erase love of reading eliminated, vocabulary experimentation, complex reasoning was preserved and spread worldwide. Conclusion. Ironically, now displays legitimate advances in brain function understanding. Correspondence files included letters from doctor struggled with Zimmerman negotiating purchase of cranial intervention data, helping identify victims and Austrian but isolated by a society preferring techniques for eliminating memories. California under personality traits, worked as a teacher, surgical never married, minimal family revealed contact. An international network. Her memoir, Universities in Edinburgh, Berlin, death. Paris receiving provided the most complete procedures banned under any civilized historical evidence. A patient catalog the Ashford listed over 600 women processed since 1798, placed most them in various Americas and returned Europe locations over permanent decades. Residents with unspecified whereabouts. Some believe they continued under different identities. Expired. Others suggested women who died during or after eliminating witnesses. A reported with overwhelming evidence citing in Argentina, Sheriff Hawthorne organized 3 elderly women armed men operating a private medical facility for wealthy families. The Ashfords had informed investigation inconclusive. By the raid on May 20, a French physician claimed encounter the Convent was Dr. Agatha Brennan sisters vanished with portable equipment and documentation, working under an assumed leaving name specializing in nervous disorders. Using similar methods, the search revealed a chamber of horrors. She disappeared when authorities investigated. A surgical theater with cranial procedure implements, one of the most systematic, prolonged human experimentation brain specimens episodes in American history. A hidden chamber the behind Ashford's a false combined scientific methodology with moral bankruptcy in various preservation advancing medical knowledge, all showing cranial surgery hundreds of lives, tagged with their documentation revealed insights. File cabinets held thousands of decades, surgical notes at a human cost defying international correspondence. It exposed the vulnerability of women in early American society. Over 20 years of systematic human social pressures and legal constraints. Dr. Hartwell allowed 3 criminals initially justified impunity. These women were already lost to society. Systematic exploitation of vulnerable members contributed to justified by claims of medical progress and social benefit. Evidence of shows how noble intentions can mask suffered a mental breakdown. In a final confession, the conspiracy of Ashford's true identity after exposure demonstrated society's willingness Ashford to suppress uncomfortable Ashford. Trained physicians expelled from European institutions for unauthorized human institutions. Officials choosing secrecy over justice in Scotland after patients died during experimental procedures for and similar crimes could recur. This mystery reveals the terrifying potential from the university scientific ambition for illegal experiments on social prejudice against vulnerable populations, mapping brain function that through systematic could operate such a program. Dr. Temperance Ashford was her 2 decades with psychological conditioning professionals and community leaders. They fled Europe and shows how dangerous knowledge established false identities as nuns to continue research free from oversight. What do you think? The manhunt systematic one of the most extensive in early American society, involving federal marshals, evidence local sheriffs, pursuit of international cooperation, divorced from human compassion, vanished and ethical responsibility. Investigation revealed multiple escape challenging civilized substantial wealth transferred to accounts in Canada. Do you believe similar crimes could occur today? Over 50s hours behind of millions of respectability and scientific false identities and safe houses across North America, thoughts below, and Europe. If you enjoyed this moving mysteries and documentation for months, the notification before Sarah's escape, and share over 21 years they processed 600 buried secrets. About 250 returned with the shadows of history hold many more truths that powerful residents tried to erase were never found. Apparently see you in the next video, where bodies preserved for another dark secret challenging 200 women we thought were found preserved we knew about America. Patients who died during procedures or were deliberately killed for research data. An extensive network of collaborators was uncovered, physicians referring patients for experimental results, postal workers, suppliers, local officials paid for secrecy. Universities worldwide unknowingly incorporated their research into curricula, forcing re-examination of medical ethics sources. Victims' families faced agonizing choices: seek justice or protect reputations. Most chose silence, preferring private grief over public scandal. This conspiracy of silence meant the full extent was never officially acknowledged. The investigation closed after 6 months, evidence sealed for over a century. The official record stated 3 women operating a fraudulent medical facility fled justice, leaving evidence of irregular treatment methods. The convent was burned by locals wanting to erase it. Yet experimentation documentation was preserved and spread worldwide, ironically contributing to legitimate advances in brain function understanding. Sarah Whitman struggled with trauma for years, providing testimony, helping identify victims, but isolated by a society preferring to forget. She moved to California under an assumed name, worked as a teacher, never married, minimal family contact. Her memoir, written before her 1863 death, provided the most complete account and crucial historical evidence. The Ashford sisters were never captured. Unconfirmed reports placed them in various Americas and Europe locations over decades. Some believed they continued under different identities. Others suggested killed by associates eliminating witnesses. A reported 1847 sighting in Argentina described 3 elderly women operating a private medical facility for wealthy families, but investigation inconclusive. A French physician claimed encountering Dr. Agatha Brennan in Paris in 1856, working under an assumed name specializing in nervous disorders, using similar methods. But she disappeared when authorities investigated. The case represents one of the most systematic, prolonged human experimentation episodes in American history. The Ashfords combined scientific methodology with moral bankruptcy, advancing medical knowledge while destroying hundreds of lives. Their documentation revealed insights not officially recognized for decades, at a human cost defying comprehension. It exposed the vulnerability of women in early American society, where social pressures and legal constraints allowed 3 criminals to operate with impunity for over 2 decades. Systematic exploitation of vulnerable members, justified by claims of medical progress and social benefit, shows how noble intentions can mask horrific crimes. Most disturbing, the conspiracy of silence after exposure demonstrated society's willingness to suppress uncomfortable truths, rather than confront systematic abuse implications. Families, institutions, officials choosing secrecy over justice ensured victims' suffering would be forgotten and similar crimes could recur. This mystery reveals the terrifying potential of unchecked scientific ambition combined with social prejudice against vulnerable populations. That 3 women could operate such a program for over 2 decades with tacit support from professionals and community leaders shows how dangerous knowledge becomes without moral constraints or ethical oversight. What do you think? could such systematic horrors remain hidden so long in early American society? Evidence suggests pursuit of knowledge, divorced from human compassion and ethical responsibility, leads to atrocities challenging civilized behavior understanding. Do you believe similar crimes could occur today, hidden behind facades of respectability and scientific progress? Leave your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this dark mystery, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share with someone who loves uncovering buried secrets of our past. The shadows of history hold many more truths that powerful people tried to erase forever. See you in the next video, where we'll reveal another dark secret challenging everything we thought we knew about America.